Let's be honest, men aren't giving up on love. They're just done being the villains in someone else's fantasy. They've stopped chasing relationships that feel like interviews, tests, or emotional traps. And for the first time in decades, they're happier alone. See, the modern dating scene isn't built for connection anymore. It's built for attention. Every app, every talking stage, every almost relationship is a psychological treadmill where men run endlessly, giving validation they never get back. And after years of playing along, men are finally stepping off. Because what's the reward? You pour your time, effort, and emotion into someone who treats love like a side quest. You send good morning texts that get left on read, plan dates that get cancelled for self-care, and get told to communicate better by someone glued to their phone 24/7. It's exhausting, not because men can't handle rejection, but because they're tired of feeling disposable. Modern dating sold men a lie. It told them, be vulnerable, be open, be kind, but when they did, they weren't met with love. They were met with judgment. The same vulnerability women claimed to want became ammunition the moment things went wrong. You cried once, you cared too much, and suddenly you were too emotional. You pulled back, tried to protect yourself, now you're cold or toxic. No matter what you do, you lose. So men did the one thing no one expected. They stopped playing. They stopped chasing validation from people who can't even validate themselves. They stopped being clowns in the circus of situationships. They stopped competing with the illusion of perfection that social media shoved down everyone's throat. And when they did, something incredible happened. They found peace. No more games, no more double standards, no more pretending they're the problem for wanting genuine effort in return. Men started focusing on the things that actually give them fulfillment. Their health, their money, their purpose, their brotherhood, their freedom. And guess what? The silence they were once afraid of became sacred. Because peace feels better than validation ever did. Here's the cold truth. Women didn't stop being beautiful. Relationships stopped being meaningful. The rules changed. Love turned into negotiation, and affection became a transaction. So now men are realizing that their worth doesn't depend on who desires them. It depends on who they decide to give their energy to. This isn't bitterness. It's evolution. It's men finally saying, no, I'm not playing a game where I lose by caring. Because once a man realizes that solitude isn't loneliness, it's power, he never goes back. He stops chasing. He stops explaining. He stops begging to be understood. He becomes the quiet one in a loud world, the man who doesn't need anyone to validate him. And that's exactly what makes him dangerous. This is the silent rebellion, and the truth is, it's only just beginning. Let's not sugarcoat it. Modern dating isn't a love story. It's a marketplace, a digital stock exchange where attraction, attention, and validation are the currency, and men are the ones paying the price. Because here's the truth, dating apps didn't bring people together. They gamified loneliness. They turned connection into competition, affection into algorithms, and love into swipes. Every man is now just another profile, another option in an endless catalogue of filtered faces and temporary thrills. And while men are exhausting themselves trying to stand out, women are drowning in attention they don't even value anymore. It's not that they're bad people. It's that they're addicted to validation. The system rewards it. Every like, every match, every DM reinforces the idea that she doesn't need to connect. She just needs to be admired. Her phone becomes a slot machine for her ego. Each new message, another dopamine hit, and the men sending them just fuel for the machine. But here's the part no one wants to say. This freedom doesn't make anyone happier. It just makes everyone replaceable. Women scroll through matches like they're browsing Amazon. Too short, too nice, too eager. And men? They adapt. They start performing, they stop being themselves, and start becoming what they think women want. Confident, mysterious, emotionally unavailable. Not because they want to play games, but because being genuine doesn't work anymore. The dating market isn't built for love. It's built for engagement. Apps don't want you in a relationship. They want you hooked. They profit off heartbreak, ghosting, and endless swiping. The more miserable you are, the more time you spend trying to fix it by swiping again. And what does that create? A culture where attention is cheap, effort is optional, and everyone's pretending to be happy while secretly feeling emptier than ever. Men have started to notice the scam. They see how women collect compliments like trophies but rarely reciprocate real effort. They see how they can plan thoughtful dates, send kind messages, and still lose to a guy who barely texts back, but posts a shirtless mirror pic. So they stop trying, they stop chasing, they stop playing a game that's designed for them to lose. Because here's the reality. In a market flooded with options, no one values loyalty. When everything's available, nothing feels special. And when everyone's chasing attention, nobody's building connection. Men are waking up to the truth. Dating in 2025 isn't about love, it's about leverage. It's not about who you connect with, it's about who can make the other person chase. It's not about building something real, it's about maintaining the illusion of options so men are opting out. Not because they hate women, but because they finally see the game for what it is. And for the first time ever, they're realizing that peace feels better than being chosen. Let's be real. Effort doesn't mean anything anymore. You can give your time, your attention, your consistency, and still lose to someone who gives her nothing. That's the modern reality. We live in a world where appreciation has died, and effort has become invisible. The more you give, the less they notice. The kinder you are, the faster they get bored. Men today aren't being loved for who they are. They're being auditioned for the role of perfect provider in someone else's script. See, once upon a time, effort was attractive. Consistency meant commitment. Now, consistency is seen as predictable, and predictable in today's dating market is the kiss of death. Women say they want a man who communicates, who shows up, who makes them feel secure. But when they get that man, they lose interest, because somewhere along the way, genuine care stopped being exciting, and toxicity became entertainment. You can tell her she's beautiful every day, but it'll never hit as hard as one compliment from the guy who ignores her. You can show up on time, plan the dates, make her feel safe, and she'll still chase the man who keeps her guessing. That's not connection. That's chaos disguised as chemistry. Men have started to notice. They're realizing that love today feels less like partnership and more like performance. You're constantly proving your worth, constantly trying to be enough for someone who's already planning her next move. You're no longer loved for your effort, you're evaluated for it. And the moment you stop entertaining her emotions, she moves on to the next distraction. It's exhausting. You try to communicate, she calls it pressure. You try to give space, she calls it distance. You stay loyal, she calls it boring. And the second you pull back to protect yourself, you're emotionally unavailable. This is what modern dating has become, a system with no balance, no fairness, no reciprocity. You give, she takes. You invest, she tests. You love, she evaluates. It's not about connection anymore, it's about control. And men are done with it. They've realized that no amount of effort can make someone appreciate what they're not ready to value. They've realized that peace feels better than constantly auditioning for validation. Because here's the brutal truth. When you treat someone like a priority and they treat you like an option, it's not love, it's manipulation. And when men finally understand that, they stop begging for attention, they stop chasing approval, they stop trying to win a game that's already rigged against them. The death of reciprocity killed dating. Now men aren't chasing anymore, they're watching. They're observing who actually shows effort back, who values presence over performance, and who can meet energy with energy. Because the new rule is simple: if effort isn't returned, it's withdrawn. And when men pull back, they don't come back. Let's talk about the part no one ever talks about. The part after the effort. After the chasing, after the proving, after the maybe if I just try harder, she'll finally see my worth. The part where men realize they gave everything and got indifference in return. It's the emotional hangover of modern dating, the quiet exhaustion that comes from giving love in a world that only values attention. You start out full of hope, full of energy, thinking this one's different. You stay up late texting, you plan things, you listen, you care. You show consistency, not because you're trying to manipulate, but because you mean it. And in return, you get breadcrumbs. Mixed signals, half effort disguised as affection. You start questioning yourself. Maybe I'm not enough. Maybe I came on too strong. Maybe she just needs space. But the truth is simpler. She wasn't invested. She was entertained. You were a chapter in her story of boredom, a distraction from her loneliness. And when you realize that, it hits you hard. Because it's not just rejection, it's depletion. It's realizing you gave your emotional energy to someone who never valued it in the first place. She wasn't with you, she was with the idea of being wanted, and when that high faded, she left you there, wondering what changed. The emotional toll of modern dating isn't heartbreak, it's fatigue. Men aren't angry because of rejection. They're tired of performing for people who only clap when it benefits them. Tired of pretending they don't care when they do. Tired of being told to open up, only to be punished for doing it. Every time you give, and it goes unnoticed, something inside you closes off. You stop texting first. You stop trying to impress. You stop showing emotion. Not because you've become cold, but because you've learned the truth. Effort without appreciation is self-destruction. And the irony, she'll notice your distance, she'll ask why you've changed, but she'll never realize that her indifference built the wall she now complains about. Men are walking away, not because they hate women, but because they're emotionally drained from constantly proving they're worth loving. They're done giving everything and getting half effort in return. They're done being told to do more for people who don't even know how to say thank you. You can only pour from an empty cup for so long before it cracks. And that's what's happening right now. Men everywhere are breaking silently, walking away quietly, choosing peace over performance. Because love isn't supposed to feel like a job interview. It's not supposed to be a competition for attention. And if giving your best only earns you apathy, then walking away isn't weakness, it's survival. This is the emotional toll no one admits. Not rage, not resentment, just numbness. Because when you give too much to people who give too little, you stop believing in love altogether. There comes a moment, quiet, heavy, liberating, when a man just stops. He stops chasing, stops explaining, stops trying to prove his worth to someone who only noticed him when he was begging for attention. That moment, that's not weakness, that's awakening. It's the point where exhaustion turns into clarity, where the endless cycle of giving and being ignored finally breaks, not with anger, but with acceptance. You realize the truth. You don't need her validation. You never did. You were just addicted to the illusion that love had to be earned through suffering. See, modern dating teaches men to chase endlessly, to be persistent, to prove they care. But what nobody tells you is that constant pursuit doesn't lead to love. It leads to self-destruction. It drains your mind, your energy, your confidence. You lose yourself trying to win someone who was never playing fair. But when a man finally chooses peace over pursuit, everything changes. He starts valuing silence over chaos. He starts enjoying solitude instead of chasing attention. He starts realizing that peace isn't loneliness, it's freedom. He's no longer waiting for a text that never comes. He's no longer checking her stories, no longer decoding mixed signals, no longer begging for closure that'll never arrive. He simply lets go. Not because he stopped caring, but because he finally started caring about himself. That's the turning point. When you stop chasing, you stop bleeding energy into people who were only ever meant to drain you. You start redirecting it inward, into your body, your goals, your purpose. And something strange happens. You become magnetic. Because peace has power. Silence has strength. And when a man no longer needs validation from others, he becomes the kind of man everyone notices, but no one can control. You start realizing that being alone isn't a punishment, it's preparation. You rebuild your focus, you remember your value, you rediscover your edge, you stop being available to people who only love the version of you that chases. And here's the irony. The moment you choose peace, the same people who ignored you start noticing again. Because nothing haunts the ego like indifference. But by then, you won't care. Because once you've tasted peace, attention feels cheap. Men are finally realizing that love shouldn't feel like a competition. That respect means more than replies. That walking away isn't losing, it's leveling up. Because at the end of the day, peace isn't the absence of women. It's the absence of chaos. It's waking up without anxiety. It's knowing your worth doesn't depend on anyone else's validation. It's freedom, and once a man finds that peace, he never goes back to chasing noise. Let's get one thing straight. Men are waking up. The game has changed, and they've finally stopped playing. For years, men were told to chase, to prove their worth, to be providers, protectors, emotional anchors for people who couldn't even meet them halfway. But now, men are walking away from the noise and building themselves instead. They're done begging for attention, they're done chasing validation, they're done being emotionally drained by women who confuse affection with entertainment. Welcome to 2025, the era of the content man. This isn't bitterness, it's liberation. Because once a man realizes his time, energy, and focus are his most valuable currencies, everything changes. He stops investing in people who don't value him and starts investing in himself. The gym becomes his therapy. The grind becomes his peace, and solitude becomes his power. He's not ghosting women, he's ghosting chaos. No more drama, no more chasing, no more pretending that love should hurt to mean something. He's choosing silence over begging, purpose over parties, and discipline over distraction. And here's what's terrifying. He's happier for it. Because when a man stops living for validation, he becomes unstoppable. He doesn't need her attention, he earns his own respect. He doesn't need to be chosen, he becomes the one doing the choosing. Look around. Men are reclaiming their energy. They're stacking money, building muscle, chasing goals, and rebuilding their confidence piece by piece. They're realizing that being single isn't lonely, it's strategic. Because peace, purpose, and progress beat forced affection any day. The modern man isn't heartbroken. He's focused. He's tired of being told he's emotionally unavailable just because he's not willing to waste energy on people who bring nothing to the table. He's learned that not every connection deserves his commitment, and that his best revenge isn't proving her wrong, it's living well without her. Because here's the truth, the same women who ignored him when he was chasing are now watching him from the sidelines, curious, intrigued, confused. Why doesn't he care anymore? Why isn't he texting back? Why does he look happier without me? Simple, because he's free. He's no longer defined by who loves him, but by what he builds. He's found peace in progress and strength in silence. The same attention that used to control him. Now he controls it. That's the evolution. Men aren't angry, they're awakened. They've realized that love shouldn't cost their sanity, that peace is the new power, and that solitude isn't punishment, it's preparation. So if you're one of those men rebuilding in silence, keep going, because the world laughs at you when you heal until they see what you become after you do. You don't need validation, you don't need attention, you just need purpose. That's the content man. And he doesn't chase love anymore, he attracts respect.